everybody. Good morning. Other than, well, hopefully we're calling. I think we're calling. We're on the up and up. We have somebody coming for to speak to us about HVAC in just a little bit, but of course the lovely Lisa Penny, who is such a good vendor partner with us for Movement Mortgage, has brought us lunch and wants to talk to us for a few minutes about the program she's got going on today.
All right.
So, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Well, often I've run out, just a couple of words here in different meetings in the past, speaking about QM loans and non-QM loans. Who is familiar with that term? Qualified mortgages versus non-qualifying mortgages. And all that means is if it doesn't fit the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA, USDA, it has a separate fit. And that's what we're trying to do. Therefore, we can help others. There's a myth that the non-QMs, non-qualifying mortgages, are like subprime mortgages, where you were in the business back in those days where, no income, all you did was sign an application and you could almost get a mortgage. It's not that. It is literally just expanded guidelines to help. With Movement, we underwrite a lot of those in-house. We have investors and we underwrite those in-house, so it's our product that we're using. And then others, when we need a little bit more extreme, unusual situations, we'll broker those out. But, it'd be our processing center, working with the broker. So I just wanted to kind of define that with you. It's a little different that we're holding those investors in-house underwriting. But what you're going to really be surprised with is the statistics. Are you going to be ready in 2024 by Scotsman's data? There was 1.5 trillion mortgages, dollars worth of trillion, 1.5 trillion mortgages. I can't even hardly say trillion. In 2024, they're anticipating that we're almost at 5% of production and mortgages nationwide is almost non-QM. We're expecting that to be close to 8-10% within the next 5 years. So we need to jump on board. We need to be prepared because just say if one office or several teams close 400 transactions in a year, that means during that year, there was almost 3 to 4 non-QM mortgages. So I had been working on that diligently. I've done one DSCR in January already, and I'm doing a mortgage, a new one this week, a DSCR, and that's debt service calculation coverage ratio. I'm sorry. And what that basically means is we do not even ask any income information by the borrower. We're literally going off the rental income that property can generate. And so one thing is I can use long-term rental and I can use short-term rental. And even if the client isn't intending, if they wanted to do short-term rental, but they use the long-term, we don't have to get any contracts at that time. And I just had one client that their debt income ratio went up to 1.34, meaning that the rent covered 34% more than the house payment. And that improved the rate significantly. Another thing that we're really doing a lot of, and I'm working on 2 now, and I have one that's hoping to close this month, is our construction to perm. We go up to 90% on construction to perm. That allows the builder to free up their line of credit, and then the borrower is taking on that financing. We do it through Movement. It's an in-house product. We are anticipating that we'll be offering our construction to perm to I-10, which means tax identification number borrowers. And we're hoping to have that within the second quarter. Another thing that we're adding on, we already have doctor mortgages or doctor loans. We're hoping to add on another product for that as well. And we're expecting that in first or second quarter as well. Just wanted to introduce you to that. One of the products that we recently came out and we started on Monday is we have investment in second homes. New product, 10% down on the second home. And then, of course, you get better pricing on the 20% down. On 25 is your sweet spot for down payments on investments because you get a big difference in the interest rate. but we have rates in the low sixes for those products. And we did not know how long that's gonna last, and then nothing was forever. So we started out on Monday and we're already getting a lot of mortgages on that. But think of investors that would like to refinance, because we can do it on refinances or purposes. Oops. One of the other myths that we have going on the non-QM loan is it's only for individuals that need a low down payment. That isn't accurate. 72 to 74% is the average loan to value on these houses and on these loans. And that's movement. And that's kind of going on also with Mortgage Backed Association, that they're going to also say that the average loan on non-QM, they're putting down at least somewhere around 25% down. Another myth that goes on is we can only do non-QM loans, and they're needed for people with low credit scores. Not just the low credit scores, the average credit score that for movement in 2024-25 was 735 on those QM loans. The average score for the National Scotsman is about 741. And so the average loan, the average score is 771. So we're not talking about just someone that cannot get credit or they have bad credit or something like that. It's really unique income. A lot of times we do the I-10, and I only needed 1 year of tax returns for that customer, and it really helped him out a lot. And we could do 15% down on that was the better pricing. We also do 20% down. 15 is about the best. If they do 10% down with a tax identification number, the rates are pretty high. So I try and encourage them to do 15. One of the other things that we're talking about is, let's see what we're doing. Talk about the credit score. And I'll just give you an example of what we're doing. We can do different income verifications. We can do full doc, which is your typical tax returns, W-2 mobile subs. We can do bank statement loans. And believe me, there's a variance. You talk about 12 months of bank statements. That is awesome, but we do have some programs that are better than others. So what my job is for you and your customer is I will look at all of my products and find out what's best for that customer. And it's amazing. It can vary. And sometimes, like for example, for my DSCR loans, my debt ratio, coverage ratio, coverage ratio loan. There we go. They are actually, I have 7. And I literally search it for the customer based upon their credit score, based upon their down payment and so forth, and find the best product for them. That's my job for you. I'm not going to go and say, oh, okay, this product was best for this customer. It may not be the best. So I research all 7 of those and find out what's best for your customer. When we're doing alternative income, like the bank statements, the profit and loss, we'll do it off profit and loss. We don't necessarily have to have a tax return. When we start doing alternative income, we start out with full doc, and that's going to give you the better pricing. We start out then the bank statement and then the profit and loss. So there's certain levels. Consider it's a little more risky not to have a tax return or full doc, and then we go down to the alternative. And so sometimes the better pricing is better with the more documentation that we have, but we want to be able to help all the customers. But I just wanted to mention that to you. So they may come in to me and want a bank statement loan. We had this happen last month. And I was like, well, you've been in business for 2 years, but you only have a 1-year tax return. I can consider that full doc, and it increased his interest rate and payment significantly. But we could have done the bank statement. I could have said, oh, yes, you got bank statements. I see the income here. Let's go that way. But I just looked at different products and we were able to get that. It was a better down payment as well as a better interest rate. There's just so many myths around that. So just please reach out to me. It could be that even if your customer can go conventional, it could be that they're better pricing on some of the non-QM because we're doing alternate documentation and different sources of qualifying. Any questions? I know that's just filling out a lot of information, but it's just to introduce you to what's going on and how things are just really moving forward. Any questions?
Thank you. Chick-fil-A.
Thank
Yeah, thank you for Chick-fil-A for sure.
you, guys. I
And then
appreciate
it's
the
okay, it's my
opportunity.
second favorite.
All right. That's
Awesome. And next up, we have Chris and Courtney. Did you want to introduce them? I see you standing behind.
I know. I don't know. I don't need to introduce them. I just want to sing their praises. So I have had the honor of getting to know Comfort Shield. They worked on a commercial project that we were doing the station in Clayton. And it was one of those, like, when you come across vendors, it's very rare that people are always polite, well-spoken, well-dressed, especially in the construction world, let's be honest. And every time I saw one of their employees, it was always like, yes, ma'am, can I move that for you? Like, we're doing showings and they're in the middle of trying to do their jobs. And instead of walking all over us, they're being so respectful, always dressed in uniforms. And then I had the fun misfortune of having the HVAC unit get stolen the week of Thanksgiving with a delayed closing where we had no more days left in our contract. And my sellers are like, if it does not close tomorrow, everybody's terminating, everybody's canceling. We are starting back at zero. And I called them in a panic and I was like, yeah, I know it's asking a lot, but we're closing tomorrow. Is there any way I could, get a tech out there to give me a quote so I can at least try to negotiate a lease back or whatever, or yada, yada, yada. They had somebody out there within 3 hours in the freezing rain. Like, I cannot say enough good things. Like, just the fact they jumped on that for me made a huge difference. Ended up, we unfortunately didn't get to use them, but still their promptness and service was second to none for me. So I just wanted to sing their praises. When I saw them walk in, I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm a fan. Like, I'm an actual fan of your business. So anyway, welcome, and we're excited to learn from y'all.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody.
This little and this big.
Now that she's created the highest expectation, just a moment of honesty with everybody. This is actually one of our first times doing this, so there may be a little bit of a stumble here and there, but bear with us. My name's Chris. This is Courtney. I've actually been with Comfort Shield for actually just over 90 days at this point. I was in single family residential for the last 4 years. Comfort Shield was one of my vendors, and unfortunately, due to some reworking, I was let go from my position because they removed their local employees. So fortunately, they reached out to me and offered me a position, and I can't be more happy. Like I said, they were one of my vendors before, and I've experienced the same type of, it was just elaborated on, and I'm very glad to be part of this new home. So again, I come with 15 years of residential experience. I did multifamily for 7 years, leasing, maintenance, assistant community manager, all that good stuff and everything else. And then for the last 4 years, I worked for Tricon Residential. I had 5,000 homes between 4 markets in 2 states, and we averaged roughly around 500 projects a month that we turned and did. So a lot of experience with the turning of a home, walking it, things along those lines. But honestly, she's more of the expert in this than I am. But again, really happy to be here. Glad to be part of this process, and really excited that y'all get to be our guinea pigs for one of these. So, Courtney.
Yeah, so I have been in the HVAC world, I would say my entire life. We're family owned. So my dad's been doing it 35 years. So they joke to me and say he sung me HVAC lullabies when I was little. So that's in my niche. I started at freshly 18. So I've been doing this 6 to 7 years now. And it's literally all I know. So I actually started and got my esthetician license as soon as I hit 18. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pursue HVAC. Let me try something new. Got my esthetician license, and the company I was working for shut down. So then right from there, that was 6 months after turning 18. I did that. Then I started here. So ever since then, I've been everything from office manager to accounting, and now I'm sales. So I've pretty much done everything in the industry as far as it goes. Except for installing and service work. I have not put my hands on the equipment itself, but I know everything there is to know about them.
And she's been training me. And funny story, our first call that we actually went on, we were talking to a couple of family members there, and I told them that we were doing some training that day and there was an automatic expectation that I was the one doing the training. And I had to correct them and say, no, the old guy with gray hair is not the one doing the training here. But it was a really good introduction into doing this. So I'm the commercial sales manager for them. She is our residential sales manager. One thing that I'd really like to point out specifically is that we are licensed. It's a huge thing that is coming, especially from the West Coast to the East Coast as of now. Licensing, making sure you're in your inspections, making sure that you have all of your permitting is becoming a tremendous part of our new coming world. So, if you have a plumber, electrician, somebody along those lines that tell you that they can do something, I would strongly suggest making sure that they are licensed in what they do, that they are pulling permits, that they are doing the steps to make sure that you have a safe product that is being delivered to your residents. And again, as Corey can also allude to, if you get inspected and a person comes in and finds that you don't have these things crossed off, it can lead it to major fines, delay your projects, and will prevent you from closing on that day that you want it to be closed on. So again, reputable, whether it's us or another vendor, please make sure you're always looking for a licensed person that is actually able to do that. Serving homeowners, buyers, real estate professionals, we're very big on, as she was alluding to earlier, manners, respect, giving the best possible customer service that we can on a daily basis. I really enjoy our environment because you hear a lot of sir and ma'ams inside of our work day every day. And I really miss that part of this world to a certain degree. And then also helping to protect transactions, again, talking about making sure that we're there to look at each one of your homes, doing a full inspection. And, my last job, our biggest motto was clean, safe, and functional. Your reputation is to ensure that you have a clean, safe, functional home, then you won't go wrong. So again, the biggest sense of mind for people, one thing that I always say is that you can't come back from not being clean. You can come back from missing a water leak here or a small thing there or something along those lines, but clean is always extremely important. So why this matters, I kind of jumped into it already. Can we get some IT assistance?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You guys do this with the arrows?
I just did it and it's good now.
Probably because you're clicking on the Zoom. So yeah.
There we go.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. So again, home inspections frequently uncover mechanical issues, especially when it comes to electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. You'll see that, a lot of the same items that you're going to find in locations are going to be extremely similar. I use water heaters as an example. I live in Fuquay, known for hard water and sediment. And a lot of times you're going to see faulty water heaters, especially if they're not being flushed, things along those lines. So that's a huge aspect of it. Systems insured daily, and we don't have delays in your closings. When I was purchasing the house that I'm currently in, we were the linchpin on 4 deals. We had to close on ours for that chain to keep on going down the totem pole. Day of inspection, we found 2 windows at my house that weren't functioning properly. I had to cut a check for $1,000 to have those windows fixed before he would close that deal. And that's preventing all the way down the line. So again, huge factor because you never know what's going to happen on day of closing. I was sitting in my kitchen of my new home waiting for the closing, and I get a phone call saying, cut me $1,000 check or I'm walking. I felt like it was extortion, but it is what it is at this point. Agents are often asked about contractor recommendations. Again, if you have a great contractor that is reputable and respectful, forward that down the line, because again, it's perpetuating business. And not to mention, if you get that lead again and you're going to sell that home, you never know where that prospect may turn into an additional sell. Well, have you been using Comfort Shield? Well, I've been using Comfort Shield the entire time I've lived in the house. Here's all my service plans. Here's all of my information. Okay, awesome. That will give you an opportunity to talk to your next prospective buyer and say, hey, I have all of this information here for you, what's transpired at the house, and I know it's in good working form. So something to consider. Understanding basic builds, understanding the basics builds the client's trust. Again, the more the more that you are informed, the better you can answer those questions, which will help you work down the line. So, awesome. There we go. Sweet.
Okay, so the first thing when it comes to HVAC systems, the major thing, and again, like he said, being informative about how to figure this out. You don't have to be as informative and educated as we are. We're the professionals, but for you to just be able to look at it and say, okay, I know that this could potentially be an investment in the future for the buyer or the homeowner. HVAC systems often begin to fail, we say 8 to 10 years. That is an industry standard. I have seen them with proper maintenance last up. My one I just did an estimate for was 26 years old. So with proper maintenance, they can last a long time. Now, if they're not properly maintained, 6, 8, 10 years. I've even seen some that coils were never cleaned, burners were never cleaned, so they failed within 5 years. So proper maintenance is extremely important, even on newer equipment installed. Old, new, doesn't matter. Maintenance is important. Major components of a system is your furnace, your condenser, your ductwork, and your thermostat. That's what keeps it running. Those are just the big, what you can see with your eyes, components of the system. Furnaces you'll find in your attic, you'll find in the crawl space. If you see no units in the crawl space or the attic, you probably have a pack unit, which is a huger unit outside the home. That is a furnace and a condenser all in one. Simplest way. I could talk about that all day. We'd be here all day. But like I said, routine maintenance matters. If it's not done properly or by a licensed professional, it could turn really ugly. You can tell this just by looking at the system. You can look at it and say, this system's 6 years old. It doesn't look it. It looks like it's 10 to 15. Literally just by putting your eyes on it. Number one thing we see is corrosion from animal urine, cat pee, dog pee. That corrodes the coils pretty fast. You can also notice that by outside. I've seen ones with holes in the coils just looking out the outdoor condenser, and you can tell. Again, with properly maintenance systems, we'd be able to catch that sooner, inform the homeowner sooner. But all of this is important when you are buying or selling, because you can tell if there's a potential big investment coming up. If the system's older, it's not been properly maintained, definitely something to note, because homeowners or buyers are looking at this saying, okay, now I have to potentially put in another big investment when I'm just putting in an investment buying this home. So.
And if there's any questions at any point, I would rather this be a collaboration, because we have 40 minutes to fill, and this can go by really quick if we don't. So if you do have a question, obviously please chime in at any point.
Cost expectations, again, talking about major investments, repair versus replacement decisions. That all comes down to the age of the equipment. If it's older, 10 plus years, obviously it's out of any warranty it might have. Most manufacturers provide you with a 10-year manufacturer warranty. That is as long as whoever installed it registered the equipment with the manufacturer. So important to ask buyer, seller, or seller if they have, make sure their equipment is registered, if they have any warranty information, if it's 10 years or less. If they did not register it, it's an automatic 5-year warranty out of the box. So they only get a 5-year, and that's on your major parts and components, your coils, your compressors, all the things that major components internally. So obviously if it's 10 years or older, you're going to want to be talking about potential replacement. Has it been maintained properly? And then if not, then repairs can, it really depends. If it's out of warranty, repairs can go up to $5,000, which is half basically of what a new system could cost you. And at that point, it doesn't make sense to repair it. System sizing, we have what we call a load calculation, which is done by a licensed professional that can tell you if that system is sized properly for the home. So we have seen years ago, plenty that I've been in, load calculations haven't been done. The system is too small for the home. So that is a code violation. And it also is going to be uneasy for whoever's living in the home. There's going to be not great airflow. The system's going to overwork itself trying to get it to the temperature it needs to be at. We can oversize, we can't undersize. So typically if my load calculation says, okay, I can put a 3.5 ton system in here, says that on the dot 3.5 ton, I'm up it to a 4 ton, because it's saying I'm maxing out at that 3.5. So then I'm going to upsize it to a 4 to ensure that they're getting all the airflow they need plus some. So that's super important, just to make sure that can be done. Energy efficiency considerations, we call that a SEER rating. Easiest way to explain it is most of your new build homes are at your base level SEER rating. They're the lowest that they make. Nothing wrong with it, just not a fancy piece of equipment with all the technology that the higher efficiency ratings have. This basically just upgrades the system and goes in different phases. Again, I could talk about it all day. Goes in different phases to not overwork the system. So if you have a higher SEER rating, which is 17 SEER, 18 SEER, 21 SEER, the system's not going to work as hard to get you to the temperature that you're desiring, which then in turn makes less of a light bill. Also, that the biggest play that comes into that, if you're looking to spend that investment on a 17 SEER, 21 SEER, think about, are your windows sealed properly? Is your attic, is it sealed? Is there a bath, or not a bath fan, an attic fan up there properly getting airflow out? If all those things aren't done, yes.
Is that rating, I'm sorry,
Oh, please.
the rating, is it somewhere on the unit? Like, how can I go home now, go into my attic, get the rating?
So it's normally on your outdoor piece of equipment. You can actually Google the model number.
Mhm.
You can put the model number into Google and ask what the SEER rating is. Google will tell you based on the model number. That's how we're trained to look at it, as the model number, but now we've been doing it so long, I can just look at it and tell you. But for you guys to look at, even as realtors, you can look at it or you can look it up on Google. Same thing if you want to find out the size of the equipment, you can Google the model number. We're trained to just look at it, but all different brands have all different ways to look at that information. So what I can tell you for a Goodman might be different for a Ring, because they do all their model numbers differently, of course. So
That'd be cool, because you can be walking through the house with your client and just Google the number.
Yeah.
Like, oh, by the way, this is rated really well or not so good.
yeah.
And it's anecdotal at that point as well, because you're starting a secondary conversation. So I agree with you there. I mean, that was a lot of things that I did in multifamily with leasing apartments, knowing gooseneck fixtures, the hot button subject conversations. If you have a resident that's potentially really concerned about those things, being able to throw that information out quickly where you're doing your research even before getting there is a benefit for sure.
Yeah. So they tell you that the highest piece of equipment, they'll use the words up to 21 SEER. They say that because the unit itself has the power to work up to a 21 SEER efficiency rating. It won't do that unless everything in the house is sealed properly. So it will not work up to that SEER rating if your windows aren't sealed properly, you have air gaps everywhere. And of course, if the unit's not properly maintained, filters aren't changed on a regular basis, that SEER rating kind of comes from you, because there's the air going out anyway. So typically the ROI on a 21 SEER still is about the same age as how old the equipment is, 10 years. So it's a small change. So if somebody's going from a lower SEER rating to a higher SEER rating system, you're not going to see that difference in your bills right away. It's going to take some time, and it's probably not as big of a savings as what they think it's going to get them. But if they're super energy efficient people, solar panels, things like that, that's something they're going to care about, even if it's just knocking off $20 on their bill, $15, sometimes just $4. It just totally depends on how energy efficient the house is in its whole. So speaking about repairs, you have minor repairs, major repairs, like we talked about the furnace and the condenser and all that. Compressor, evaporator coil, condenser coils, those are major components of the indoor equipment. Those are covered under your 10-year manufacturer warranty we spoke about. If they are not covered under warranty, those will cost you anywhere to, say, a compressor, one of your major components, $1,900 to $2,000, just that one piece itself. So then we replace the compressor and the system's 10 years or older. Who's to say within the next 6 months the evaporator coil is not going to go in? We don't know. So then in 6 months' time, you could spend up to $5,000 on this piece of equipment that could have been replaced and would have been a better investment for you in the long. So always, if the system is older than 10 years, hasn't been maintained properly, I'm going to push for replacement. It doesn't make sense for me to repair it and you spend that much money. Yes, ma'am.
So what sort of scheduling are we looking at in terms of maintenance for, let's say, a first-time home buyer?
So for a first-time home buyer, we have a gold maintenance plan. It's 2 visits per year. We do it in the spring and the fall. But I always inform the homeowner, important, because in North Carolina, we don't know what the weather does. I cannot check the cooling side of the system unless it is 70 degrees or above. So I can't properly check that piece of equipment until the temperatures get right and it's at a steady 70 degrees and above, or I'm doing you a disservice. For the fall visits, 70 and below, as long as it's consistent 70 and below, I can then properly check it for your heating. So yes, 2 visits a year, and at one visit, we're cleaning your outdoor coil, which is your condenser coil. And in your other visit, we're cleaning your evaporator coil. So, at those visits, we check all the components, gas systems, super important, because we can check inducer assembly, things that could crack, that could potentially cause gas leaks. We're checking those for gas systems at maintenances as well. So we do that during the winter, the fall visit. So yes, 2 times a year we go out there. And yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
What's your fee for that?
For our maintenance plans, it's $285. That covers you for a year, and we have all kind of benefits and discounts that come along with that. I don't charge you if I have to come out on the weekend. I don't charge you any extra to come out for emergencies. As well as 5% off of any repair costs, and you get a $10 discount on your service call fees whenever you call us. So you're covered for a year with all these benefits and coverage as far as that goes, but you just get the 2 visits out of it and just the benefits. That's all.
And if you have 2 units or 3 units, is it per?
$285 for the first one, $105 for each additional.
Great, that's what I think you
Yep.
said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. And this morning, I actually, when I told you I had a meeting that was a little bit late, I actually had a commercial client that was doing 17 locations throughout. And as we were discussing through it, he added his home, his son's home, and his daughter's home into that service agreement as well, so that we could start taking care of them at the same time. So it's
So for commercial properties, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Commercial properties are completely different as far as maintenance goes. You can have a plan that is just 2 visits a year. Obviously the cost is more. I think that's $385 for just a regular 2 visits, but we have a quarterly commercial plan as well. That includes 4 visits, and we change filters at every visit. That is most popular for restaurants. Restaurants that, obviously have a lot of grease flying, things happening in the kitchens. That's the most popular for them. They don't want to worry with it. They want the peace of mind. So we come out 4 times a year, replace the filters and clean the coils and do everything that they do. So that was a little bit more expensive, I think, at $685. So yeah, different commercials, a little bit different. Can't remember the price per unit on that one. I think 105 for regular commercial for each.
195 for the traditional on the second one, I believe.
Okay. Yep.
On the compressor, the 10-year warranty, does that cover parts and labor? Only
Yeah.
just parts.
Just parts. So our company provides a 1-year labor warranty. Anything happens within the first year of install, I'm going to come back and fix it. You don't get charged a dime for parts or labor. Most manufacturers, and we do encourage homeowners to look it up with the manufacturer. Whenever we register your piece of equipment, we provide you with a document stating that we registered the piece of equipment and how long it's registered for. That'll include your model and your serial numbers and everything you need to know about the unit right there. Yes.
When you do that, sorry, I've already lost it because I didn't expect you.
Okay. We do encourage homeowners to call the manufacturer with the number that is on the registration that I give you, and they actually will pay you for labor if you become a part of their labor plan with a manufacturer. We will also extend our labor warranty where you don't have to worry about that if you stay on a consistent maintenance plan with us. So if you're on a maintenance plan from the time we install that unit, well, actually after we provide 2 free maintenances every install we do. So we'll cover you for the next year regardless. After that 1 year is up, if you stay consistent with your maintenance plan, we'll extend our labor warranty. So we'll extend it by 2 years and keep going. We'll extend it up to 4 years with our labor warranty. So you don't have to worry with the manufacturer if you plan on staying on a consistent maintenance plan. If you skip that maintenance plan at any point, unfortunately, if it's past a year, then it would no longer extend.
So when you sell a new unit to a homeowner, do you register that for them for the extended warranty or just the 5-year?
I do it for the extended automatic 10-year.
So buying something from you, you're going to get me 10 years and I don't have to worry about it at all. That's really important, you guys, because our clients don't remember. They're so excited about their new house, whether it's new or old, that they're not going to remember to call that warranty in.
Yep.
So that's really important.
So just to follow up with Tracy's question, so if someone goes out and then purchases a home and just say if the home was built 2025 and then it's being sold this year, and so they don't know if it has been registered, can you find out if it has been registered?
100%, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we do that a lot anyways. Whenever we're looking up something's wrong with the system, we have to call the manufacturer or supplier and find out if it's under warranty. Sometimes we have to deliver the sad news that nobody did that for them and extended it for the extra 5 years.
And how long do you have if I go and purchase a unit right now, how long do I have to register it?
60 days.
60 days, okay.
Important if you have a new buyer that's obviously coming into the home and the seller replaced the unit during that closing process, hold on to that and let us know. Because if you want it to be under the new homeowner's name, I can't register it until I know who the new homeowner is. So when we're doing it for vacant properties, we typically wait until they have their closing date to register. They have their closing date, all the papers are signed, everything's done. You give us a call, we're done. Here's the buyer's name. I'm then registering that equipment in there.
So is it registered for the person or the unit?
It's for the person. It has to be in the homeowner's name.
So when you, like it's still under the 10-year, is it transferable or does that depend?
No, it's not transferable, but with certain brands, I'm able to get away with that. I'm able to just get it under warranty I just provide them with a model number if they searched up and they can see who the previous homeowner was. They'll ask me, I'm like, yeah, sure, because I'm going to do a quick favor for the homeowner at the end of the day. It's still covered. Does it cost them anything? Does it cost me anything? I'll just do it that way, but it's not transferable. So that's why I say, if you're in that closing process, we need to go ahead and put it in the new homeowner's name just in case, and depending on the brand, some won't work with you on that. They'll say, no, sorry, homeowner that was under there doesn't live there anymore. We can't honor it.
Yeah, and it's good to know. I didn't realize that this didn't transfer. That's a great question.
Yeah. So that's important. If you're doing it during the closing process, definitely. And that's also important to know if you're not doing anything with the unit replacing, just let them know if it is under the 10-year warranty, we can't transfer it. Same thing with labor warranty. Typically, my dad's pretty lenient on it and he'll work with you as much as possible, but same thing on the labor warranty. If we installed it 5 years ago and you're selling it 5 years later, if you extended your warranty by any means, I can't transfer that. The only thing I've seen us transfer is a maintenance plan before. I had a homeowner who was selling their home. He just bought the maintenance plan. He only did one visit. So then he was like, well, can I get half my money back or can you transfer it to the new owner and I can put it in my closing paperwork? So we did it for him. That's fine. We'll allow the last visit to be for the new homeowner. Yep. Again, repairs, we talked about that. Those can be costly anywhere. I've seen repairs cost $6,500 before, and I've seen people pay for $6,500 repairs on 15-year-old systems, all up to the homeowner. Replacements are anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000. Number of units is important when it comes to replacement. That's typically a single replacement cost, $6,000 to $12,000. If we're replacing 2, you're looking at anywhere from 12 to 16. Yep.
Any other questions?
I have one, but I can wait till you're completely done.
She's just finished her sheet, so
Oh, so it's question time. So I am curious because this made me, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that struggles with this, but can you explain to us, we have a thing on our MLS to fill out that is, what is the heat? Is it forced air or heat pump? Can you please explain to us what is forced air and what is heat pump and the differences in?
Yeah. So there are plenty of different types of systems. A heat pump is what we call, it has a condenser and then it has an air handler. So nothing in it is gas. So it's just an electric heat pump. That is when you have an indoor portion of your system and an outdoor portion of your system. Forced air is a furnace. That's going to be your 80 to 90% furnaces. The real way to know that, it gets confusing because both have outdoor portions that look exactly the same. Furnace and air handlers tend to look the same as well. Is there gas hooked up to the unit?
So if there's no gas, then it's automatically heat pump.
If there's 2 different components of the system. So if it's not just a pack unit that's outside, one of those really big units outside. Yeah. If it's not one of those, but you have an indoor portion and an outdoor portion, then it's a heat pump as long as it's running electric. If there's gas, then it's a furnace indoor, not an
forced air period.
Yes. So anything other than a heat pump, they're going to put under a forced air.
Okay, and if it has a heat pump, it's not forced air.
Correct. Yeah, so that's the difference between heat pump and the furnace, because the furnace is pushing forced air for the heat. It has
So
a
if
furnace.
it has the box outside with the furnace and the heat pump together, what is that?
That's a package unit. You can have a heat pump pack or a gas unit. So if there's gas hooked up to it, period, it's going to be forced air.
Yeah.
Isn't gas another option in that same question?
Well, it changed when we changed the language too, so it's probably a user error, but it's very confusing. It always has been very confusing to me, so. But it sounds like you got it, so.
But what you're saying, if there's no gas,
Mhm.
like if there's no natural gas, it has to be a heat.
A
Right?
heat pump or a package unit.
Heat pump.
Yeah, so if there's no gas, the only other option there's two different pack units you can have, a gas package unit and a heat pump package unit. So just the difference with a pack unit is it's all in one. You're not gonna have an indoor portion for anything. You can see if gas is hooked up, the homeowners will probably know as well with gas bills if they have any gas hooked up to the unit as well. But with heat pumps, the heat pump is just all electric. Nothing is, gas is being used for that.
What is a package unit that doesn't have any gas? Is there another name for
Yeah,
that?
heat pump pack.
Well, there's such a thing as a heat pump pack.
Yes.
I swear.
Yes. So if it's a package unit, it doesn't use any gas. It's a heat pump package unit. Typically, you see those on homes that don't really have that great of crawl space, don't have crawl space at all, and then their attic space is slim to none. They make that decision based on the amount of room that we have, clearances around the unit if we were to install it in an attic. So yeah, typically you see heat pump packs where they could not put an indoor unit anywhere at all.
So the preference is to separate them.
Typically, depending on what you're looking for. So if it's a 2-story home, I'm probably, depending on the square footage, I'll zone a heat pump system, which means I'll use the same singular system, depending on the square footage, and I'll zone it. So you'll have a thermostat on your first floor, thermostat on your second floor with just one system to get you that desired temperature. So it's really just a preference. I've had people that really didn't need to have a pack, but they already had one. So we're just going to go back with the same thing that's there. But yeah, typically your most popular is a heat pump. You're going to have 2 different components for that system.
I feel like I see the gas packs, the big outdoor thing, a lot in older homes.
Yeah.
Is that because they were all gas back in the day and that.
Yeah, all gas or no attic or crawl
And no
space.
crawl space,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yep. Anybody else have any questions?
We're not done yet, but any other one?
Okay.
And one thing I want to just hit on, and I know this may sound silly, change your air filters.
Oh, yeah.
Change
Yeah.
your air filters. I mean, even if that's a move-in gift for your resident, I can't tell you in the amount of years I've done this, how bad they can be and how bad that can affect your system because it's really choking out the entire system from breathing. So, I mean, it's a huge deal.
You can join clubs now that'll deliver them to you.
Yeah.
Yes, so I was just about to say that. Yep. I work with a guy who makes them. So we actually were trying to partner with a guy out of Raleigh who was previously an HVAC company. I met him a few times. He just started up. Well, he's been doing it for a few years now. I met him at the Raleigh Home Show. He makes the filters. And he does it. So you're not like getting them from a source outside of the United States and they're getting mailed to you that way. And that those order clubs you have, he's actually local. And he talked about that was a big selling point for realtors. Their closing gift was they purchased them this filter package that allowed them to be delivered for a year for them, and that was their closing
Yeah,
package.
keeps on giving
Yeah.
the whole year.
Yeah.
Like jelly the month.
Mhm.
All right.
Andy.
I had a listing once and just going through and she had already moved out and I go up and there was 2 units and I call her, I'm like, this upstairs. She's like, well, maybe just change the filter. I'm like, the filter?
Mhm.
So I go and figure out what type of filter and thank goodness it started cooling,
Oh yeah.
because I'm like, yeah, but it was. Change the filter.
Yeah, it'll cause them to freeze. So your outdoor unit will freeze if it cannot breathe. So in the summertime, typically you only see that in the summertime. If you have a heat pump system, it's going to freeze over if that filter is clogged. So you go outside, you see a block of ice, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have not replaced my filter in the last 6 months. I would probably try that, then give us a call if that does not work.
That was a silly question. When you are replacing the air filter, you know how they have the arrows? Does that mean that the air is being sucked in that way or the air's coming down that way? I always get confused.
It means the arrows mean it needs to be, that's where the arrow's up. That means your filter goes in that way.
Like with the arrows.
The
pointing
arrow,
from
the arrow or
the
something.
air into
Correct.
the vents.
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I brought in, strongly suggest maybe adding this to your repertoire, having it for you when you're doing home inspections. You can look at the air conditioned unit, see what the temps are coming out of it. It may lead you down the path that you might have a problem and you may need to do an inspection. I can aim this right at one of the units right now, and I can see that it's 71.8 degrees coming out of that air conditioner right now. So again, if you're looking at your thermostat in your house that you're walking and see that you got it set to 70 or something along those lines, and it's pumping out not well enough, you could have an issue in there. So
Yep.
a good investment for 20-30 bucks at Klein Tool. I keep one in the truck at all times.
Yep.
So
But with that, whenever you read it, and there's a potential 10-degree difference between what you're reading on that and what's on the thermostat, 10-degree difference is normal.
yes.
So if you do get one of those and you're testing it out and you put it to the vent and your thermostat set at 70, but there's 60-degree air coming out there, if you're in cooling mode, that's normal.
Mhm.
Same thing, heat. If I have it set on 70, but I have my thermostat in heat mode and it's 80-degree coming out of there, that's normal.
What if you have it set on 70 and it's 60 coming out of there and it's supposed to be heat? Thinking that's not normal.
Yeah, so then there would be a problem. So it just all depends on if my thermostat is satisfied, the number one thing to know is if your thermostat's satisfied, you're satisfied. That's really all that matters.
We're talking about filters. I once saw someone talking about the more expensive filters. Are they really that good for your unit versus just the ones that's going to allow the flow? Can you discuss that possibly? And is it best to use the filter that's recommended in the manual or a universal?
Yeah.
Can
I'm
you-
always gonna say use the one in the manual. I say that because you see a lot, especially rental homes, they're buying the cheap green ones that you can literally break apart. That's not gonna work. It's not really filtering anything. If anything, they are actually cheaper and can get sucked in with a return, and then it's not really filtering at that point. You don't have to buy the most expensive one. The medium range ones, as long as I can't do this and it's flopping with me, you're good. We have some people that have a secondary filter system, which is like 2 filters in one. It's those really thick filters, and you can see that there's 3 different layers to that filter. I don't recommend them. We actually don't like them. You see other HVAC companies installing those kind of filters for people. It's eventually going to restrict airflow if I keep putting that many filters into one. It's literally a whole pack of them. It just looks that big. At some point, how is air seeping in and out? How is it properly filtering? So some HVAC companies recommend them. They love them. They think they're great, but that's because they don't have to come back for another year to replace that filter. So all it does is just buy you time. You don't have to replace a filter every 3 to 6 months like you're supposed to. So I don't recommend them. Just doesn't filter properly, and it's going to cause some restriction in airflow as well. But just your normal basic filter, you don't want to go cheapest, and you don't have to go most expensive. Always resort to the manual. That's the best thing to do. Like I said, as long as I can't flop it with my hand, you're good.
The next one.
Yep.
We go on, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, just to jump into electrical systems, again, maybe a little bit less on this is the other items, but you're looking at your panel boxes at each one of the houses. You have 100 and 200 amp panel boxes. Usually on your older homes, you're going to have the 100 amp. At this point, the 200 amp is going in on most of your new builds because you have a lot more of the car charging, EV, things along those lines. So it doubles the capacity of what it's able to maintain and handle without doing anything to your house or without tripping. So definitely something to pay attention to. And again, labeling of your breaker box. I cannot tell you how many times we've gone in and there's no writing on anything. And for an electrician to have to diagnose and find something in that house and not know which breaker, first, it's a huge safety problem. Is obviously electricity. You don't want to mess with it, but at the same time, it's really beneficial. So I would even suggest if you're selling a new home, having that go back in to be rewritten to make sure that you have accurate information on there for the home buyer as they're going in, and as well as showing them where their panel box is. Coming from single family, there's so many people that have never lived in a house or, and know anything about these things. So showing water cutoff lines, showing them where the breaker box is and what to do in this situation, making sure the labels are marked properly so that if you have a problem, a technician can easily come in, because otherwise it's going to take more time, and the more hours we spend in there, the more it's going to cost. So again, it's to save you up front to do that little bit of work to start off with. Common findings and inspections. I like to tell everybody, listen to the home when you're walking into the house. Listen for buzzing sounds, listening for anything, checking each one of your, plugs in the home. There's a little, plug-in that you can use that'll show you whether or not the plug is live or not. So even if you're walking around and plugging in, just making sure they're all functioning properly. If they're loose, if you smell anything at all, again, clean, safe, functional. In the single family residential I did, we used to replace all of them after 5 years. We go into the house, replace every plug in the home to make sure that they're ran properly. We had an electrician check them to make sure that they're functioning, and moving from there. And somebody always usually knows it. Everybody know why you have a plug in your house that's upside down.
For the lamp.
For the lamp, yes, it's controlled by the light switch. So you're curious.
Oh, no, I've known that for a long time.
She's curious. When you're looking in your house and you're walking around and you find that plug that's like flipped upside down, where you have, instead of the 2 and the 1 here, it's on the other side. It's meant specifically to be handled by the light switch. So if somebody's asking if, there's no lights in here, well, you actually have a plug that's going to be designated to your light switch. So it's really good information.
Something today.
Yes, absolutely. If anything, you took that away from this. But you do have a lot of homes that don't necessarily have ambient light, or that don't have a recess or something. Those are going to be handled by your light switches. So something to always pay attention to, because you might have that resident that moves in and goes, I don't have light in here. So you had that recently. So yes, look for that plug that's upside down, solve that problem very quickly. And again, that's something you can do in your tour. Hey, that's going to be your plug for your light switch. So then you can also say that's where you're going to put your bed, or where you're going to put your end table. Did a lot of that with multifamily. Common findings again are going to be, shorts, trips, breakers, things along those lines. If you're running into a lot of those situations or issues, licensed electrician to do a diagnostic of the house to make sure that everything's functioning properly. Safety upgrades may be required. Your GFIs, well, actually, it's a GCFI. Thank you. I still got it wrong. But making sure that you have all of the safety protocols in the house is an important thing. And again, I beat it to death. Clean, safe, and functional. The last thing that you want to ever do is move somebody into a home that's not safe. That's also your reputation and your school or wherever you went to's reputation that you're affiliated with. So prevent accidents. And then I love it. You got a note right there.
Yeah.
I'll
So
jump in.
speaking of safety, mid-50s, early 80s, they were installing Federal Pacific panels. Has anybody heard of those? Okay, very important. Federal Pacific, early 2000s, was sued. They were sued because they were purposely manufacturing these things to fail. Fire hazards, houses catching on fire, all sorts of things. You'll still see them in those older homes. I still see them to this day. I cannot touch or replace a breaker in a Federal Pacific panel. They do not make those breakers anymore. It'll say it as soon as you open the panel door. You'll see the brand Federal Pacific on the panel door. If it's old and outdated and worn, you might not be able to see that. Easiest way to tell is now we see a panel, it's long ways. We see that this is a small square. It looks like a small square, really old and dingy. 9 times out of 10, that's a Federal Pacific. So that's also a huge investment for a potential buyer that they would have to put into that if the breaker went bad. And also we're talking about fire hazards. They're no longer even in business anymore. So we can't get the breaker, and it's a fire hazard. So I recommend replacing them every time I've seen them.
Any questions? Sure.
Put in them.
All right. Electrical costs. Is that the enter button? You got it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Oh,
you went too far. That's good. Electrical panel, you're looking at $2,000 to $4,000 on average for a replacement on that. So obviously, can be another fairly substantial investment for your potential buyer. Adding circuits in is definitely something that can be done into each one of the circuit breakers. If you look at it, you'll see actually open spots where a circuit can be added in. So if you want, a resident that's moving in goes, I have a smart car or I want to do this, you need to make sure that it's a 200 amp versus 100 amp. We can add in breakers and we can change those types of things. But again, that has to be a licensed electrician, and I will beat that word to death as well. I got a friend that does electric. Okay, good. Great. I'm glad you have a friend that does electric, but are they licensed? Do they know what they're doing? Or are they just a weekend warrior that's YouTube stuff? So that's very, very important. I do not claim to be an electrical expert. Actually, I don't really claim to be an expert on anything, but I want to make sure that we're again providing the proper people for the proper things. Minor repairs anywhere from $250. It really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and do. Usually for a home replacing all of the plugs in a house, you're looking at probably somewhere between 500 and 800, just because you're the purchase of each individual one and also the putting it in. Any questions? Fantastic. Water heater. My wife
I
helped
think we
me put
must have
this
skipped
together.
paper.
Huh?
Okay.
There you go. My wife put this together. She said this was her. That is not me being bad, but she was making the funny joke about it. That one's you.
Water heater replacements. This comes into play is if you can ask the seller when's the last time you had your water heater flushed. That's important
Mhm.
because if they've never had it done and the water heater is 8 years old, it's probably rusted, corroded, and potentially going to have a leaking issue here soon. We ask that you flush your water heater yearly. We have one of our maintenance plan, our platinum plan, that covers all 3 trades. Our plumbing is included in that as well. At our inspection, we'll flush the water heater. So we recommend that be done yearly. Also, that depends on how many people are living in a home. If you have a whole family in there, definitely yearly. If it's just you, maybe every 2 years, 3 years, you can get away with. But definitely recommend doing it yearly. If you don't and you don't flush it yearly, then sediment will build up and then it'll start rust out, corrode, and you'll have leaking. And that
So you have the big pile of water that comes out of the bottom of the unit. There's
Yeah.
nothing that can be done at that point.
Yeah.
Other than to replace.
So obviously that's for regular water heaters, and you have your tankless. That doesn't matter. Tankless is ran a whole different way. We're just speaking on tanked water heaters when it comes to flushing. Water heater replacements anywhere from 1,500 to 35. That's also if that's like for like. So if I'm changing over from electric to gas, it could be a little bit more. Or if I'm changing from tankless or tank to tankless, then that price could also be up. Leak repairs anywhere between $200 to $1,000. Definitely just depends on where the leaks at, where it's happening. If I have to replace all the piping underneath there. Repiping was the next one, $14,000 to $15,000. Again, that depends on square footage of home, number of bathrooms, water heater, size of water heater, all of that. One of the most things that I see that homeowners don't notice is what we call a low boy water heater. They don't even know it's there because it's typically hidden in a cabinet somewhere. Those are your really small water heaters, typically in really smaller homes or even apartments I've seen before as well. They're literally tucked away in a cabinet and they have no idea where that's at or even what it does. But that's where your water heater is. So if they see a bunch of flushing under the cabinet, it's either you splash too much out of the sink or your water heater's rusted. So
Yes, ma'am.
When would you have to repipe?
that was, I think that's on my next slide. So
Okay, I'm
that's
sorry.
that's typically you're only repiping if you have old corroded pipes. And you can see corrosion based on some white film that's left on the pipes. You can see it. I don't know if you guys want to crawl in your crawl space and look at that. You definitely don't have to, but if you see some white sediment, that's signs of corrosion. If you have old cast iron piping, again, that's typically seen in older homes. That is no longer up to code. So I cannot tie in a piece of PEX to a piece of cast iron. I would have to replace the whole thing if I'm going to just replace a part of it. So yeah, cast iron, if it's cast iron, I would recommend if you're selling a home and they have cast iron, that's an investment that's about to come up. Yep.
And again, just to piggyback, I had a neighbor call me 9 o'clock at night recently. Water heater he hadn't flushed, knew nothing about it. Sediment, again, Fuquay is really bad about it. I have to pay attention to it. I actually want to put a water filtration system in because of it, but bottom fell out completely. He happened to hear it as he was walking by to his laundry room. Otherwise, if he hadn't noticed, his entire garage would have flooded because that water continues to flow. There is a water shutoff on a water heater as well. So once you turn off the water to the house, you can turn off the water to the water heater. And then you can turn that back on, but all of the water does have to drain out. There's nothing that can be done about it. Water weighs an absolute ton, obviously. So when it comes down to it, if we were to come out, it would be a drain first to get all the water out and then to go from there. Usually there is a water spout or a spigot on the bottom of most water heaters. You can hook a drain line to it and you can drain out all of the water, but that's not necessarily going to flush the sediment and everything else that's inside of it. So again, it's going to take a little bit more work than that.
So like a true flush out isn't just like hooking up the
It's not just
Drain it?
draining it. No,
Okay.
no.
Is it something that you have to have done or is it something you can do?
No, it's definitely something you would want to have done.
Okay.
Mhm.
We are afternoon, so if anybody needs to leave, y'all are welcome to leave, but I do want y'all to finish if.
No, that's fine. I think-
Yeah,
that's fine, yeah.
Yep.
Plumbing systems, like I just said, you have PEX, copper, PVC, galvanized, stainless steel. You'll see all different kinds. Again, the one that's not listed up here is the, I just said it, I can't think of it. Cast iron, thank you. Yes, so all of those are newer, the pipe, the PEX, the copper, the PVC, and the galvanized stainless steel. Those are okay, code compliant, cast iron is fine. I think I don't know if we talked about water heater lifespan already or not. But 8 years for a water heater, as long as again maintained properly. Everything about trades is all about being maintained properly. So we talked about the once a year flush. Obviously, if you walk into a home and the toilet is running, that's a sign something's wrong. That flapper, that usually costs to replace the flapper and the fill valve. You're looking at about $185. So if you walk in and hear the toilet running, 9 times out of 10, there's something going on with the flapper. So you can look about $185 to fix that. Broken hose bib handles. You walk outside, the handle's broken on there. That we see that a lot when we do realtor inspections. That costs about $285. We just go and replace the hose bib. I do recommend that if we're going to go ahead and replace the hose bib, we go with a frost-free hose bib. We just had that huge snowstorm. So if we're going to go ahead and do it, it's only $10 more for me to put in a frost-free hose bib. So that's just something you want to probably mention to the buyer or the seller. Let's go ahead and do this since we're already doing it. Talked about the buildup of the white substance and the corrosion. So that when it comes to plumbing, you're just looking for corrosion, potential leaks, sounds for sure. If you hear water running, then that could be an issue. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, again, and I'm a victim of that myself. Not a float. It was the float mechanism in the back of my toilet. I had a $200 water bill last month because I didn't realize that it was running. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. But once I got the bill, I started to look at my home and figure out, okay, this is where the problem is and go from there. But nobody wants to pay a $200 water bill. And it's also just wasteful at that point. So again, like we talked about, listening to your home, walking around it in the quiet, once a month or something, just to see if there's anything that just doesn't sound right, because you may end up finding something that could cost huge amounts of money. If a hose bib breaks on the exterior of the home, you don't have penetration inside of the house. All of that's going to be in between the walls. You could have, and now let's use the word mold, but you could have mold growth. You could have all types of things that could cause health issues. So again, paying attention to it, watching your bills, watching your meters, and making sure that it's running properly.
We're behind on that.
We're a little behind. Inspection negotiation tips. Always again, we've reiterated and gone over utilizing licensed, whether it's us or somebody else, making sure that you're using a licensed person, that the inspections are complete and everything else along those lines. Or for the other side of that, if you go into a negotiation and you find that 10 or 15-year-old HVAC unit and somebody's going to have to potentially purchase a new one, well, that could be on the other side and saying, hey, I'd like you to knock off this much money off of my closing costs or things along those lines to help on the back end. Definitely something to keep in your back pocket. You walk into a house and you see that it's a 10-year-old water heater. You don't know anything about it being flushed. The likelihood is that it's going to fail. Again, it could be something you're using as a negotiating tactic. If you have that person that's like, no, I'm hard on my 250 as a number. Well, you have issues in this house that may lead us to a path of them having to have more investment. So again, more knowledge, the better. Everything in writing. Don't get estimates from people that aren't in actual written form. If somebody tells you a number that doesn't hold anything into accountability, and again, you can use those estimates as bargaining chips at your closings and things along those lines. Avoid ballpark guesses. Oh, it's going to be about this or whatever, because nobody listens and hears the about word. They just hear the number. And when they hear that number and that number changes, that's when you have an unhappy person. And that's something that, is a challenge for us as well. I don't ever want to give somebody an inaccurate number and then come back and go, oh, well, it's going to be this. Because now I've turned into a shady vendor and I'm trying to manipulate or anything along those lines. So if I don't have the answer then and can't give an accurate answer, I'm going to let them know I will come back with an answer once I have it proper. Understand safety versus cosmetic. That's a really, really big deal to me as well. When you're walking into a home, this can be fixed, that can be fixed. It's not a concern for the long term. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're going to have time to be able to address the paint and the little items along those lines. But when it comes to the safety precautions of HVAC, water heating, electrical, those are going to be things where, again, we want to put somebody in a safe home. So how we help real estate professionals, pre-listing system evaluations, fast repair estimates. As you've seen, we try to even do same day if we can possibly
Yeah,
do it.
that was me. I drove all the way from Wilmington for that one.
There you
I was
go.
in Wilmington helping a homeowner install, and she called me. I was like, okay. And then, so I just left and went head up there. But yeah.
And again, same thing. That guy that told me my neighborhood. I went over there, helped him get the water cleaned up, got him squared away. We had a person in there the following morning at 11 a.m. had his water heater replaced, and he was back functioning the way he did. So, that little extra goes from ordinary to extraordinary, in my opinion. Priority scheduling for transactions. Again, you become a priority for us if you're utilizing us. We're not going to necessarily put you far up ahead the totem pole over somebody that has an emergency situation, but we will do priority scheduling and clear and very clean documentation so they provide that to your buyers. It's really, really huge point to where a lot of people, when they move into a house, they're so excited with everything that's transpiring that they're not hearing everything that you're saying. So you have that opportunity to go, here's your move-in packet. I'm going to follow back up with you. I strongly suggest this, and this, because I've notated the ones that are really important to you. I've had so many people that I moved in single family, especially, to where they have a water leak or an emergency, and I don't know what to do. Well, in your move-in, we showed you where the water cutoff valve is. So you know where that's at, because I don't know where it's at because I'm not standing in your home right now. Go to the water heater, go to here, things along those lines. So again, make sure that you're stopping, giving them an opportunity to catch their breath. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned fast repair estimates. What do you charge for estimates, or do you charge for estimates?
Repair estimates, as far as my unit's not working, I need it diagnosed, I charge $99 plus tax. For estimates, I need to replace the system. I just want a strict quote on replacement. That's free. I'll charge anything for that.
Anybody else?
And everything we do, we take photos. Our guys get their tools out, they're taking photos. There's nothing I cannot show a homeowner from underneath their house. I don't want them to have to go under there and do it. So I'm under there, I'm taking pictures. And I can't tell you how many times I actually went to one when I was in Wilmington. They had no idea. They had just bought the home about a year ago that they had a dehumidifier under there. So I was under there and I said, well, your dehumidifier is not working. And they were like, what? We have a what? I was like, yeah, you got one of those. So I take pictures, document everything, show them ductwork conditions and attic and crawl spaces so they can see. They typically, when I go to replace quote a unit, I'm always looking at the ductwork, no matter what, because if we replace the unit and we know that the ductwork is completely tore up to shreds, the inspector is going to ask us about it. If 50% or more of it if 50% or more of it is damaged, I have to send a quote for replacement. Now the homeowner can choose not to do it, but they have to sign a piece of paper saying I chose not to replace the ductwork, but I still have to provide the estimate, because 9 times out of 10 I go to tell them, hey, here's your quote for your unit, and then I also notice these things on your ductwork. Well, everybody says that. Everybody says I need ductwork replacement. You're just trying to get something out of me. So then I provide them with photos, and I say, this is what I can see under there. You see, it's completely tore up. There's even been ones I actually could feel and crumble, and took videos of me just touching it and it crumbling in my hand. Or I've even seen ones that had built up with water in there, and I take a knife and I cut it real quick and water floods out of the ductwork, moisture buildup. There's a potential issue there. So we document everything that we do from walking into the house to the end.
Good. Last one. So some real examples, case studies, things along those lines. We're going to split these up. Courtney's going to take HVAC and electrical, and then I'll do plumbing and real world problem solving, and we'll be finishing up.
Yeah, like we talked about, HVAC replacement negotiated at closing. That's an investment. They're already making an investment, or the seller's obviously trying to sell it to them. Negotiate that at closing. Obviously, for electrical panel safety concerns, we talked about the Federal Pacific, super important. Also a huge investment that they're going to have to potentially make fairly soon when they purchase that house.
Plumbing leak discovery before listing. This can be very problematic. I had this happen at quite a few rentals that I've moved in. We had all of the water shut off because we were doing some work. They turned the water on. No one was there to realize it because the power company turned it on and it completely flooded the house. I had people about to walk into the door on day one. Our team gets there and there's a giant bubble in the paint where all the water is. Dab it, let all the water leak out, and then we've got to tear the entire roof apart and do all of that work on the day that they're going to move in. So again, always paying attention to water is a huge, huge deal. Checking your valves, making sure that they're in proper functioning working order, and ensuring that you're really looking for those little things that could happen or transpire underneath sinks. Strongly suggest having a flashlight with you when you're doing your home inspection. Look in the crawl spaces, look wherever you can. I know that you're all dressed nicely when you're going to do some of these, but on your own time, if you can go back and check that house with a pair of jeans and go look in these areas, I highly suggest it. I've got a flashlight in my car that I keep with me. Blue tape is your friend. If you utilize this, it will benefit you in a lot of ways when you're walking a home. If you're seeing something cosmetic or something that needs to be replaced or fixed, you have a vendor going there, putting a piece of blue tape at that location, they will know that that's where you're looking for. So again, it's very cheap, it's inexpensive, but it's a perfect time for a problem in a home. When I go and walk houses or did before, I come tape here, tape there. These are the items, everything's been blue taped and they can know what they're looking for. So you have a vendor that's coming in and you're not at home. I put a piece of blue tape where it's at. It's in the kitchen in this location. Okay, perfect. That can help ease the thought process. And again, same thing, tape measure, blue tape, something to check your thermostat and temperatures in those lines, always can be beneficial. There's small tools that you can utilize to help you see potential problems in the future. So good items to keep with you. We are at the end. Does anybody have any questions, curiosities, anything else that we can answer for you? We're happy to do it.
You do inspections?
Yes, yeah, that was the last thing I was gonna wrap up with is everything we have talked about, we go over in our realtor inspections. So our realtor inspections are $89.99 per trade. I'll go down to $79.99 if you call us out for multiple trades. If you need all three, I'm going to charge you $89 for the first one to come out there, $79.99 for the next one, and the next one. I do charge separate fees for each trade because they're all different trades. They're all different people and expertises. So it's not just one person I'm sitting on site. It would be 3 different ones.
Can you confirm, so obviously HVAC, but you guys do plumbing, electrical, I got that vibe, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure. I was
yeah, we do all
understanding.
3 trades.
All three trades.
Plumbing.
We also do septic. We do basically anything construction wise that you need to be completed. We can do.
Yeah, so nothing said in this mentioned Old Mill. We're also an unlimited general contractor, our sister company. So we do literally anything under the roof of your house from building your house. We do it all.
Under one roof.
You mentioned septic.
Mhm.
Is that service or?
That's installation and service. Yes. We can empty them out. We can install, do whatever. With that suggestion would be once per 5 years to have it cleaned out, depending on the amount of people that are in the home. That's usually going to be your time frame for that. But I would also make sure that whoever you have come out to check it is using the proper tools. Because they can tell you that it's full and all that good stuff. There's actually more room in there than generally considered. So some people will tell you, oh, it's full, it needs to be going. Well, tell me what's there. So it's definitely more information with that. I'm not as well versed on it because it's not something that I deal with on a continuous basis, but I'm happy to get information for you if you need it. Anybody else? Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for coming back and talking about organizing today. I think everybody learned something. At least I did.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all. And yes, ma'am, we have business cards sitting outside. I got packets if I can bring those for y'all as well. And if y'all need anything, my personal cell phone, Courtney's got cards as well.
Family, I'm scared.
Oh yeah, please do. But yeah, we are always available and we can get anything done. And I don't care what time it is. My wife may care, but I don't.
Thank you, Chris.